Hello and welcome back to another episode of Quran Weekly, where we read the Quran in Arabic and discuss it in English. My name is Ahmed, and on the call I have with me Captain Imad. Say hello, Captain.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you guys.
You've seen us do 2 episodes, and we're gonna jump straight back into it. This is the third episode with Captain Imad. As usual, we miss Safa on this channel, so if you miss her, drop us a comment saying something sweet for her, and I will make sure she gets the message. But keep her in your prayers, and hopefully she'll return with us when the time is right. Before we begin, we must always begin by explaining that we are not scholars that are studying this. We're not linguistic scholars. We're not Arabic scholars, nor are we mastered in the studies of Islamic interpretation and understanding. We are merely undergoing a journey of understanding and learning about the Quran from our love for it, and we are sharing our process with you. So if you see something that you think of has a different meaning, or you see a different perspective on it, feel free to drop a comment and let us know what you think. The more that we discuss with each other, the more that we try and learn together, the better that this is. But that's all that I kind of wanted to say before we kick things off. We're continuing now with Surah Al-A'raf, where we stopped last time, and verse 31. Over to you, Captain Imad.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Yes, before
يا
we
بني
begin, I must explain those two things that you just said. One is I seek refuge from God, from the devil, so that God protects us from the devil, and in the name of God, who's most merciful and whose mercy is most encompassing. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Over to you.
يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين.
Yeah.
The verse here, God is talking to Bani Adam, or the humans, basically. خذوا زينتكم, يعني you must look at your best when you go to the masjid to pray. You shouldn't go in clumsy clothes, or you didn't bath, or you didn't, you didn't clean up. You should look at your best if you go to the mosque to pray. وكلوا واشربوا, eat and drink, ولا تسرفوا. الإسراف, تسرفوا كلمة إسراف الجذر تبعها إسراف. معنى الإسراف بالحلال, يعني لنفرض أنه
It's to translate for those that don't understand Arabic so much. The translation of tusrifu, and it comes from the three-letter origin, the SRF, sarf, which means to what is it? To make it small?
No, it's to overdo it.
To overdo it. Oh, don't be extravagant.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying. Yeah.
Don't be extravagant. Like exactly when you invite somebody for lunch, you prepare food enough for two, you and your guest. You don't prepare food for 20 people and you are expecting one guest.
Yeah.
If you do prepare food for 20 people, then this is israf.
Okay, so don't be extravagant when it comes to eating and drinking.
Exactly. And the word tusrifu is always bil halal. Yani, you're not doing anything haram. You are preparing meal for your guest. But why do you want to prepare a meal for 5 people, or 5 persons, or 100 persons when you're only expecting one guest?
Yeah.
This is israf. التبذير, there is another word that comes with israf, كلمة تبذير. تبذير is extravagant expenditure. For instance, you want to buy something. Let's say they ask for it like 10 euro, the price of it 10 euro. You say, okay, now I'll pay 20 for the same thing. That's israf. You are overdoing it in the wrong direction. And the first time you were extravagant in halal, now you're doing it in haram. You're doing it for no reason.
Okay, but so to focus on the meaning of this verse, what's it telling us to do? It's saying that when you dress for, and here I've heard the explanation. I've heard somebody talk in the comments that masjid doesn't necessarily mean mosque.
Absolutely.
But it can mean anything that places at worship. And that
any place where you can perform salah in.
Yeah, and salah means prayer.
Prayer, yes.
So any place that you can perform prayer in, dress well, and eat and drink, but not in extravagant, because God does not like the extravagant ones.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Next.
Clear. Next.
قل من حرم زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده والطيبات من الرزق قل هي للذين آمنوا في الحياة الدنيا خالصة يوم القيامة كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. Now, when he says zina is any
It's also
سبحان
similar,
زينة.
similar to the word that we had before, خذوا زينتكم. It becomes say من حرم زينة. فزينة زينتكم, which was in the previous in the previous verse talking about dressing nicely. It's the outward appearance. Here it's saying the adornment, that which you wear. Does that make sense? قل من حرم زينة means that
زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده. God has given us all the things that we cherish, we like to show off, clothes, cars, houses, I don't know what.
Yeah.
قل من حرم زينة الله. Who has forbidden all that that God has given to his people, his slaves, basically عباده. We are all slaves to God.
Sure.
وطيبات من الرزق is anything you can eat.
That
too.
The lawful things from what you could eat, the pure things from what you can eat.
قل هي للذين آمنوا في الحياة الدنيا خالصة يوم القيامة. Those who have enjoyed it in this life will enjoy it again after the doomsday.
Wait, here it's saying قل هي الذين آمنوا. Say it's for those who believe in the life of the world of the life, exclusively to the day of resurrection. Wait, what is that? I don't understand.
It means these goodies and these foods and clothes and everything you enjoy in life. قل هي للذين آمنوا في الحياة الدنيا. This is for those who have believed in God in الحياة الدنيا.
Oh, they believed in God in the life that is in the worldly life that we have before us.
And after the doomsday, they're gonna enjoy it in a different way, in a different manner.
Yeah.
كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. And that's how we detail the verses for people who are thinking, who are contemplating, who are trying to understand.
Just the one thing that I'm struggling with is خلص يوم القيامة, exclusively for them on the day of resurrection. What does that mean?
The verse actually says خلص يوم القيامة, but it means after يوم القيامة.
I don't understand. Why do you say it says after when it's saying on the day of resurrection?
The day of the resurrection is the day of judgment.
Sure.
Where people are gonna have go through weighing their good deeds and bad deeds. After that, the decision would be taken either to heaven or hell. So those who have believed in this life, حياة الدنيا, those who are believers before the doomsday will go to heaven. And it's going to be pure for them, exclusively for them. Because those who didn't believe in this, in God and doomsday and prophets and messages of God, books of God, those who didn't believe in that are not going to see any of it.
But this is, okay, so hang on a second. The first part of this ayah says, say who has forbidden the adornment that God has brought for his slaves and the pure things of sustenance. And those two things, the adornment and the things of sustenance, say that those are for those who believe in the worldly life and
who have believed in God.
I hear you, but it's saying the adornment and the pure things are for the people who believed. They're not for the people who disbelieved. What does disbelieving have to do with adornments and pure things and pure foods?
Because those who didn't believe in this life, who didn't believe in God, they're going to go to hell.
But
so how can they enjoy this? How can they enjoy all these things? They can't.
Okay, it confuses me because I would imagine that even the people who don't believe enjoy these things during their lives, do they not?
But they will never see it in the afterlife. However, believers will see it in this life and in the other life.
Okay, so if I read the English translation, it says they are for the enjoyment of the believers in this worldly life, but they will be exclusively theirs on the day of judgment. So maybe there is the distinction. Like during the life, they will enjoy it, but so will the people who don't believe. But after the day of judgment, then it's only for those who do believe.
Absolutely.
Exclusive. Okay. All right. That makes sense now. All right. And this way we explain the signs for the people who know. Okay. Clear.
Okay. Next.
قل
إنما حرم ربي الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن والإثم والبغي بغير الحق وأن تشركوا بالله ما لم ينزل به سلطانا وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون.
Okay, this is a very, very particular and effective verse, ayah, as we say. But first, let's explain it bit by bit, and then we'll explain the greater context of what it means with regards to sinning in general. But let's just take it step by step. قل إنما حرم ربي الفواحش.
الفواحش is the great sins.
Yeah, shameful deeds, the big deeds, ما
ظهر منها وما بطن. What was obvious and what was not.
Say that my Lord has made the shameful deeds forbidden. حرم, that's the word. ما ظهر منها, what is apparent from it, and what is concealed from it. Sure.
Yep. This is the first thing. The first thing حرم ربي.
The first thing
حرم الفواحش.
He's made forbidden. He's made forbidden shameful deeds. Yeah.
And then الإثم.
And then sin.
الإثم sin is a regular sin, but if it's a huge sin, it's called فاحشة. Like zina, for instance, adultery.
Yeah. Adultery.
Like drinking alcohol, for instance, is forbidden in Islam. It's haram. This is called ithm. Where do I conclude that al-khamr, for instance, is haram? There is another verse. Maybe we'll go through it later on. That says.
No, that's in.
يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما منافع الناس وفيهما إثم وفيهما منافع الناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. In another surah, it says they are asking you about alcohol, Muhammad. What?
And gambling.
They're asking you about it. So tell them, okay, there are some benefits for people who can sell it and buy it and trade with it and all that, make money perhaps. And there is a sin in it.
And there's a harm in it.
There is a harm in it. And وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Their harm is much, it outweighs the benefits.
Yeah. So for me, I've read the verse, and we've covered this verse on this channel already. It was in Surah Al-Baqarah, towards the second half. So if we go back to chapter 2, I know which video it would be. But anyway, that mentioned where it talked about gambling and drinking, and say that there are some benefits to them, but there's harm as well, and the harm outweighs the benefits. And which, for me, I didn't see that as forbidden. I didn't see that as to being very clearly to be forbidden for us as Muslims. That means you can drink, but some bad of it will happen, and some good of it. There is some good, and there is some bad. There's a little more bad than good, but you're still free to do it. Like it's your whole life. But then when we bring into this context, it says it has been forbidden. The shameful deed of what's made apparent and what's concealed. But also it says and the sin. And this is the same word at ithm that is mentioned in that previous verse, that alcohol and gambling contain sin. And I think it's logical and it makes sense if somebody says that this is now forbidden, because it's been forbidden, these big ones and the sin, which is the same word. It makes sense for people to understand that alcohol and gambling are forbidden. But I also understand that it's not as clear as daylight. I don't think it feels like in some things in the Quran it seems to be very clear, don't do this. Like when it comes to eating pig, when it comes to eating the blood of dead animals, the Quran is very clear, it is forbidden to eat those things, and it's very clear and very direct. For me, the fact that this verse coupled with another verse makes you believe that alcohol and gambling are forbidden, it leaves room for misunderstanding for me. So I understand what you're saying, that it is sin, but I'm not sure it's accurate. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying it very much could be Correct. I'm just saying I don't know for sure, if you know what I mean.
Okay, الحلال بين والحرام بين. What's halal is clear, what's haram is clear.
Halal means
وبينهما
lawful. Halal means lawful, and haram is forbidden.
Okay, الحلال بين والحرام بين. Halal is lawful. What lawful is clear. Everybody knows what's lawful. Everybody knows what's not. And there is something in between, a gray area. Now, if we put the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah to this verse, you can deduct from both of them that the end result is that adultery is clear text. Gambling, alcohol, I don't know what, are definitely haram. Period.
Understand what you're saying, and that's what I was saying. If you put this in conjecture with that other verse, it makes sense what you're saying. I'm not denying it, but I'm saying it's not as clear to me as other things, the way that God explains it. Yeah. So, like, I mean, I understand and completely agree that the Quran says that alcohol and gambling have some benefits, but have more damage than benefits. But yeah, again, in those verses in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says ithim in a way to understand that it's something harmful to you, something that deducts from you, that's something that ruins you, but not in the sense that it's forbidden. You don't get the feeling that they're forbidden in those other verses. You just get, it's like a warning in the Surah Al-Baqarah. It says, yeah, you can gamble, and it has some benefits, of course, and there's more disadvantages than benefits. So I understand the conclusion that you get to in comparing, but I don't feel it's as strong, It doesn't seem to be that clear to me. But anyway,
okay.
Let's continue reading the rest of the verse.
Okay, so there are 5 things God has forbidden in this verse. And there are so many things God has forbidden in other verses.
Yeah.
The 5 things we have in this verse: حرم الفواحش, grave sins.
Yeah.
حرم الإثم, haram.
Yeah. Sinning.
البغي is being unfair to somebody. تظلم حدا. To be unfair to somebody.
Oppression.
وأن تشركوا بالله, number 4, to make partners for God. وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون, and say things about God that you don't have no knowledge of. In other words, you're lying on the God's tongue, saying that God says this, God said that, and He didn't.
Yeah.
These are the 5 sins.
Yeah.
This verse has told us to steer away from.
Quick question. And تشركوا بالله, and to associate others with God, which we've heard many times again. ما لم ينزل به سلطانا.
ما لم ينزل به سلطانا.
Which means, and what He has not set down of it with any authority.
Has God ever give authority to anybody other than Him for people to worship them?
Not as far
Did God say, for instance, Jesus is my son, worship Him?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Not even Jesus said that, but that's neither here nor there.
Exactly. So if you don't have a solid proof that God said, okay, Jesus is my son, you can worship Him, then go ahead and do it. But God didn't.
Yeah. Okay. So does this mean that, is it possible that God would have some sort of authorization for worship? For associating others? It feels strange that He has to clarify what He has not sent down any authority for. It kind of gives me the impression that there is a possibility that He can send authority for. But
no, all what is saying is hinting that I did not tell anybody that Jesus is my son and you should worship Him.
It doesn't specifically mention Jesus, but I understand the connection.
Because those who believe Jesus is God or Son of God, or I don't know what one of the Trinity is saying about God, but they don't know. God didn't tell them Jesus is my son. He didn't tell them worship Him.
Okay. All right, we're straying a little bit. So the 5 things that this verse is saying: fawahish is the big sins, sin, oppression, associating others with God, and to say something about God of what you do not know. Very clear.
Absolutely.
This is what's been forbidden in this verse.
Next. ولكل أمة أجل فإذا جاء أجلهم لا يستأخرون ساعة ولا يستقدمون. For every nation we have made a deadline.
A fixed time.
If that deadline comes, they will not be delayed not an hour, and they will not be ahead of it not even 1 hour.
Yeah. So this talks about civilizations rising and falling, and some civilizations have the right time, some civilizations have the wrong time, and yeah. And
when the time is up, it's over. Game is over.
Yeah.
When their time is up.
Yeah.
Next.
يا
بني آدم إما يأتينكم رسل منكم يقصون عليكم آياتي فمن اتقى وأصلح فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Now God is talking to Bani Adam, which is sons of Adam.
Yeah.
Anytime you receive a messenger sent from me, from God, telling you my verses, be it the Zabur of Dawood, be it the Torah, be it the Bible, be it some other holy books, the Ten Commandments, be it anything that came from God through messenger, you have a choice. فمن اتقى وأصلح, he who avoids straying away from the righteous path and did good in his life, فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. They fear not, they will not be sad.
Nor will they grieve.
Makes sense?
Makes sense, clear. Yeah, so when messengers come, reciting his revelations or verses, whoever is mindful or fears God, shuns evil, and does good, then there's no fear for them, and nor will they grieve, nor will they be sad.
The next verse will say, on the other hand, والذين كذبوا بآياتنا واستكبروا عنها أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. On the other hand, those who have lied,
denied our verses.
Denied our verses, and they felt they are bigger than.
They became arrogant.
They are the people who are going to hell, and they will live. They'll be there in hell eternally.
Yeah, abiding in it forever. Clear. There's usually always the yin and the yang. Whenever he talks about the positive and the heavenly, he talks about the negative and the heli.
Exactly. Next.
Yep.
فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته أولئك ينالهم نصيبهم من الكتاب حتى إذا جاءتهم رسلنا يتوفنهم قالوا أين ما كنتم تدعون من دون الله قالوا ضلوا عنا وشهدوا على أنفسهم أنهم كانوا كافرين.
Okay, interesting verse. Very powerful as well. I'm actually kind of surprised. There's a lot of these very specific but pivotal verses that we have. Ayat. But yeah, let's take it in. So
there is nobody more unjustful than he who lied about God. He said God says this and that God is this or that, and he's lying.
Yeah, invented lies.
Or he denied his miracles or verses.
Yeah, denied.
Those people will have their share
from the book. What does that mean?
The book is the book of their goods and deeds, because in doomsday there would be a moment in time when one of the angels is going to call اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. Read your own book, the book that lists everything you have done in your life, good or bad.
Okay.
And you will be the judge of where should you go. And
Okay.
you know that if your good deeds are more than your bad deeds, you're going to heaven. If it's the opposite, you're going to hell. You will be the judge of your actions.
Okay.
So this is what it means الكتاب نصيبهم من الكتاب.
Their portion of the book. What's written for them.
حتى إذا جاءتهم رسلنا. Who's رسلنا هنا? Here
Yeah. Here,
is the angels of death.
the angels of death. Yes. Even though it means messengers, but we understand it to be the angels because in the next one, يتوفونهم means to take them into death or to take them away from this life.
They are messengers. The one message they were given to these people is now we're going to die, period.
Well,
That's the
actually,
message.
the way that I've understood it before, and someone's mentioned this in the comments, is that their messenger, they're like a messenger is someone who carries a message or carries a package, and the package is the person. So the person is the person is the message. So
Okay. So I was sent to bring you back to reality.
They were sent. That's the right one. The messengers just mean those who are sent. That's what was described. So they were sent to collect your soul, and that's why they're messengers, because it's the act of sending. But the angels were what was sent.
Now there is a question. When we were kids, somebody asked. It says, Israel is the name of the angel of death.
Azrael.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly different than Israel and
No, not Israel. Israel is Yaqub. He's one of the messengers of Judaism.
Okay, so I just want to make a slight difference between this, because it sounds like you're saying Israel, the country.
No. Israel is the angel of death.
Azrael is the angel. Azrael is the angel of death, and it's different from Israel, which is a very different topic. I just want to clarify.
Two different things altogether.
Yeah. So Azrael is the angel of death.
Okay. Now, when we're kids, somebody asked a question. Now, let's suppose that there was an earthquake, and thousands of people have died. How can one angel of death take all their souls together at the same time? There are people dying all over the world. In the US, in South America, in China, and everywhere on planet Earth, there is always somebody dying somewhere.
Sure.
Why? How can the angel of death be all over the place at the same time? This was one of the questions we asked our teacher in school, and he answered us with another verse. فإذا جاء أجلهم توفتهم رسلنا وهم لا يفرطون. So there is not only one angel of death,
but it's multiple.
There are angels of death. They are designated for each person.
Yeah, but and
they know what is the time that he should die.
Yeah, FYI, Rasulullah can be talking about angels, but Azrael is known as an archangel, if I'm not mistaken. So he's kind of like, if you're thinking about order of priorities, there's degrees of angels, and some of them are higher in degree than others. But anyway, what happens when the messengers come to take them in death?
They ask them, where are those who were below God that you worshipped? And you were calling them instead of God. Aside where from are God. They? Can they help you now?
Yeah. Where are those who you used to invoke without God? Yeah.
قالوا ضلوا عنا. Oh, we've lost them. They lost us. وشهدوا على أنفسهم. They bear witness on themselves. أنهم كانوا كافرين. They were non-believers.
That they were disbelievers. So the angels will ask the people that died, where are the people that you used to invoke without God? And you will say, they've strayed, they've left us. And these people will testify against themselves that they were disbelievers. I mean, what else to say other than what shame? Yeah.
Okay. Next. قل ادخلوا في
قال.
Sorry, قال ادخلوا. Thank you.
No worries.
قال ادخلوا في قد خلت من قبلكم من الجن والإنس في النار كلما دخلت أمة لعنت أختها حتى إذا اداركوا فيها جميعا قالت أخراهم لأولاهم ربنا هؤلاء أضلونا فآتهم عذابا ضعفا من النار قال لكل ضعف ولكن لا تعلمون. Now in this verse, it's describing the way nations after nations going to hell because they were non-believers. God says, go on, join the previous nations before you, from jinn and from ants, from people and from the jinn. When they go into the furnace, into hell,
Into the fire.
every time a nation comes in, it will curse the one before it until they all are completed in hell. The last one would say to the first one, قالت أخراهم لأولاهم. God, those guys who were first, they have misled us from the right path. Give them 2 portions of torture
Of hell.
in hell. قال لكل ضعف ولكن لا تعلمون. Everybody's gonna get double. Don't be.
Yeah, but then what God said was that for each a double, but you don't even know. So each of you,
It's gonna get more than its share.
yeah.
A double share, if you like.
So each of you is going to get, it has already been multiplied for all, but you do not know. So even though later generations will say, oh, it's the first generations or it's the first civilizations that led us astray, everyone will get double the punishment. You get double the punishment. You get double the punishment. You get double the punishment.
Everybody's gonna get double punishment.
It's like
all non-believers.
Oprah Winfrey, but for hell. Sorry. Okay. All right. Next.
وقالت أولاهم لأخراهم. The first nation told the last nation, because there is a dialogue between first nation and last nation, the previous verse. قالت أولاهم, the first one told the last one. فما كان لكم علينا من فضل. You had no privilege over us. What does that mean?
You were no better than us.
You were no better than us. Why didn't you listen to us? Why didn't you think of use your own mind and think for yourself? Why did you have to follow us? ما لكم فضل علينا. You didn't help us either. فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكسبون. ذوقوا is taste.
Taste the torment of what you used to earn. So the first of them will tell the last of them that they were not superior. They were not. You're no better than us. You're not superior than us. So taste the torment for what you believe. So I mean the picture is clear here. The first and the last, they'll all be doomed.
Okay, next. إن الذين كذبوا بآياتنا واستكبروا عنها. إن الذين كذبوا بآياتنا. Well, I'm losing. لحظة.
What's the problem?
Something wrong with my laptop.
No worries.
Maybe I should shut down this browser and open it all over again.
Sure.
Okay. Which verse did we reach last?
40. We're reading from 40 now.
Okay.
I could try read it myself.
Hang on a second. I'm almost there. You try reading it yourself. Why not? Go ahead.
All right. Don't judge me.
No judgment.
I was looking at the camera when I said that, so I'm also asking YouTubers not to judge me. But let's try. إن الذين كذبوا بآياتنا واستكبروا عنها لا تفتح لهم أبواب السماء ولا يدخلون الجنة حتى يلج الجمل في سم الخياط وكذلك نجزي المجرمين.
تمام. إن الذين كذبوا بآياتنا واستكبروا عنها لا تفتح لهم أبواب السماوات ولا يدخلون الجنة حتى يلج الجمل في سم الخياط
Ooh.
وكذلك نجزي المجرمين. Those who didn't believe our verses and they became arrogant, the doors of the heaven will never be open for them and they will never enter paradise until the camel can go through the hole of the needle.
Now, I have no idea what this means.
It
Like,
means impossible. Can you pass a camel, a full-blown camel, through the needle hole?
obviously not, but that's kind of why I'm trying to. The reason why I say I don't know what it means is, does God mean this literally? Is there going to be some sort of transformation in in physics, in transfer? Is this a
No,
meta?
no, 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 no,
Is
no.
this a metaphor?
It's all metaphorically speaking. If you believe that the camel can go through the hole of the needle, then yes, you can go to heaven, which will never happen.
Wait, so those
Just metaphorically.
who denied our verses and were arrogant, the doors of heavens will not open and they will not enter it until a camel passes through the eye of the needle. So you're saying the camel passing through the eye of the needle is just a metaphor for the impossible.
Absolutely.
Okay. And thus we recompense the criminals. I can understand that, but it's such a weird expression. It also feels like, I mean, like God is capable of everything, right?
Absolutely.
So what if God makes this possible?
If he wants, he will.
Okay. So there's hope for you guys.
That's his decision, not ours.
Sure. Let's continue.
Okay. Next.
Yeah.
لهم من جهنم مهاد ومن فوقهم غواش وكذلك نجزي الظالمين. المهاد, the word مهاد, فراش, it's like a bed.
Yep.
ومن فوقهم غواش,
So they have
is أغطية من النار, which is covers. It's like a blanket of fire.
so their bed is made of hell, and from above them is the covering. ومن فوقهم غواش.
غواش اللي هي blankets of fire.
But okay, so here it's saying coverings, but I see the English translation below says flames will be their cover. Ghawash means fire blanket.
That's the way I understand it. العربي literally أغطية من نار. That's how it translates to.
Okay, which means covers of fire. That's what it translates to. All right.
وكذلك نجزي الظالمين. That's the only fair reward for those who have been unjust in life and bad people.
Yeah. Next.
والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Now he was talking about those non-believers. Now he's talking about the believers. والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Those who believed and did good deeds. لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها. We are not asking you to do anything you cannot do. We want you to do the best you can. That's all we want. لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها.
We do not burden any self above its capacity.
Yep. أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون. Those are going to heaven eternity.
In it they will abide forever. So the ones that do good and believe, we will not burden them with any more than their capacity, except for their capacity. And those are the companions of heaven, and in it they are abiding. I find a lot of comfort in this verse, and I've always kind of believed this. Even as a child, I've always felt like God doesn't bring me a challenge that I can't handle, that is above beyond my capacity. Maybe I'm also lucky that I've lived a very sheltered life, but I've also gone through some seriously dark times myself.
We all did.
And even in those dark times, even in the most horrible thing that's ever happened to me, which was so painful and so heartbreaking, it was still my capacity to deal with it. Of course, I had to break and become dysfunctional for a while, but with time, it became a source of strength, and it kind of helped me pull back, and it helped me recover. So I've always believed this as a child, and I'm starting to re-believe this and rediscover this as an adult, that God really doesn't. If you believe and do good, then just trust that whatever you're dealing with, no matter how difficult it is, it's within your capacity to deal with it. And even if you break down and stop functioning, that's still within the capacity of healing and processing, and you'll do what you need to do until you can't do it anymore, and God will take care of that. I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. There is خواتيم سورة آل عمران I think أو البقرة بتقول it says لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. This is one verse that talks about so many things, one of which is we are asking God not to give us more than we can handle.
Yeah, more than our capacity.
And here God says we don't give anybody more than they can handle.
Yeah. Except its capacity. Which can, like I said, it almost feels like sometimes it's not true, because some things do, quote unquote, break us. But then in the end, we survive. In the end, we grow. In the end, we heal. And then those situations that were our darkest points become a source of strength for us, because I survived that. Therefore, I can survive more. So it may seem like sometimes you're carrying a burden above your capacity and you break down. But in the end, you kind of you break through rather than break down is the way that I like to think about it. And you
Absolutely.
You just have to survive, and you'll be okay.
Next. ونزعنا ما في صدورهم من غل. What's غل? الغل هو الحقد.
Malice.
طب شو هذا الغل؟ منين اجى؟ Where did it come from الغل؟ الحقد المalice that they had in this life have been taken out of their chests, because in heaven there is no grudges, there is no fighting, there is no jealousy, there is no selfishness. None of this is going to be there.
If we continue reading, I'm a little bit confused. We removed وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّنَ الْغِلِّ. We removed from what's in their hearts of malice, flows from underneath them the rivers, which talks about.
No, this is هاي بسموها حال, وصف الحال. نزعنا ما صدورهم من غل, انتهت الجملة. And then تجري من تحتهم الأنهار is a new sentence. There is a full stop. There should be a full stop.
So you're saying this is clause number 1 is that we've removed from their hearts malice, and
yes,
flows from beneath them the rivers.
This is new information.
Yeah.
A description of their heaven.
Okay, so from this we understand that he's talking about heaven, because whenever he says flows from beneath them rivers, then we know that this is a reference to heaven.
تمام. وقالوا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا. And they said, thank God who guided us to this.
Yeah.
وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. We would have never been able to be guided unless God himself has guided us.
Yeah.
لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. Messengers of God gave us the truth. ونودوا, those people in the paradise, in heaven, they were called. Somebody shouted at them, أن تلكم الجنة ورثتموها بما كنتم تعملون. These paradises you've inherited
from what you
because of what you used to do in the first life.
Yeah, and in this, I've had a problem as a believer, and like I also agree this. Like, for instance, I tell people, why am I a Muslim? Why did I believe? Why did I reconvert to Islam last November? And the honest answer is, I don't know. So this statement of we were not be guided if God had not guided us, I think applies to me specifically as well, that I would not have been guided to Islam if God didn't guide me, because I don't quite know, like I didn't go out seeking it myself, and I kind of resisted religion and resisted believing for a long time. And the best way that I can explain as to why I believe now is because I was guided. It was just a series of circumstances that made me see and made me believe. But if I believe that God does everything, then it's God who guided me to this path. And I've always used to struggle with the idea of why doesn't God guide everybody? And how is it fair for God to punish those that he did not guide? And I still struggle with it, but yeah, what do you think?
You mentioned a while ago the atrocities you've been through, the pain, the agony, the bad experiences you've been through. And I'm sure at one stage or another in that time, you were totally lost. You didn't know what's right, what's wrong, what should I do, what should I not do.
I still,
Obviously,
I still,
obviously there is a part of you that asked for guidance. And
I,
this is when God guided you.
but even that, the moment when I asked for guidance was because I had gone through something so dark and I'd seen death so close to me. But it didn't happen immediately. It took like a year and a half after I came face to face with death. And it was just a series of circumstances that were super strange and super surreal. And at the time, I was afraid. It just a series of events happened to me that made me feel afraid, and that's when I asked for guidance, and like with crying. And then even after I asked for guidance, I received the weirdest, strangest signs from God, where things that still confuse me to this day. But like, my approach to Islam has been very different than a lot of people's approach to Islam, and it's quite unique. But again, it's all because God had guided me through these circumstances, through the death of my partner, through it was just a combination of things that all happened bit by bit, and that guided me to this path. So I feel like it's it's God's fault that I'm a Muslim.
That's not his fault. It's his good deed. It's his mercy.
Yeah.
However, this reminds me of another verse. إن الله يهدي من يشاء.
God guides who he wills.
Who he wills. Whose will? God's will or the person's will?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I've learned this about the Arabic language, and apparently if it ends with the saying, then it's about the subject. So God guides who he wills, and so it's the will of the person who's being guided.
Exactly.
All you have to do is want to be guided, and you will be guided.
Ask and you will be given.
But then if we look at the tense in this verse, وَمَا كُنَّا, and we would not have لِنُهْتَدِي, we would not have received guidance if it was not for that God had guided us. لَوْ أَنْ هَدَانَا اللَّهُ.
We have asked for guidance.
Yeah, but here
from God.
That's not what this verse is saying.
Let me finish. If you please. وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. We would have never found the right path had it not been God's will as well, because we have asked for guidance. If God didn't actually guide us, we would have never been guided.
Sure, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's here in this specific verse. It's talking about God's will and God's guidance. If God had not guided us, we would not have been guided.
No, هذا فضل الله. إحنا طلبنا الهدى.
You're saying that we have asked for guidance, but this verse is not saying that. One second. Sorry, I got a call. 1 second, let me just say.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, this verse is saying, and we were not have been guided if it had not been for God guiding us. So here it's emphasizing that it is God that is doing the guidance. I agree with you. In another verse, it talks about us asking for God, asking for guidance, and in that verse, it talks about la hadana Allah. Either way, in other verses, it mentions our will. But here it mentions God's guidance as the key for us to be guided, which is, again, what I'm telling you, because I'm not, me as a person, I don't know why I've been guided to Islam, and I can only accredit that to God.
You remember a time when we talked about guidance? What does it mean? And I told you that you asked me, how do I go to the Dead Sea from Amman? And I tell you, you take the roads, highway so and so. After the second traffic light, you go to the left, and then you follow the signs, and I don't know what. I have guided you to the right way to reach the Dead Sea from Amman. This is guidance. If you don't follow my instructions, you're not going to reach the sea. This is way before GPS, okay? And Google Map.
I understand.
So guidance means two things. It means showing you the way, and it means walking on the way, going on the way, following the way.
Yeah.
So when we say God, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana, God has guided us to this.
Okay.
But we followed. We fulfilled his instructions. And we couldn't have reached our destinations had it not been for God guiding us.
So are you saying that God is guiding the disbelievers, but they're just choosing not to follow?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, it's possible.
God has told them what's right, what's wrong. God told them to do good, not to lie, not to steal, not to kill, not to lust, all the 7 sins that you know it more than I do.
Yeah.
What did they do? They followed exactly the opposite. And then they say, why are we ending up in hell? Okay. You have been given guidance, guys.
Okay. That's
God has guided you, but you chose not to follow.
Yeah. I understand. I think it's possible. It's just I'm discussing a problem that I had with this verse, even though I still don't fully understand. But I think it's fair. God guides all, but we don't all listen. So that's fair. Next.
ونادى أصحاب الجنة أصحاب النار أن قد وجدنا ما وعدنا ربنا حقا فهل وجدتم ما وعد ربكم حقا؟ قالوا نعم فأذن مؤذن بينهم أن لعنة الله على الظالمين. Okay. People of the heaven called people of the hell, and they told them, we have found what God has promised us. We found that it's true. Did you guys find what God has promised you? They said yes. فأذن مؤذن بينهم. Mu'adhin is he who calls for prayer, which all it means is in a loud and clear voice.
Yeah. So the announcer.
Yes. Sure. What was that he said? لعنة الله على الظالمين.
That there's a curse.
I don't know how to translate that.
There's a curse for God has cursed all the wrongdoers, the ones who have done things unjustly. Yeah.
Next.
Clear? Yep.
Who are those unjustly? Who were they? The next verse explains. الذين يصدون عن سبيل الله ويبغونها عوجا وهم بالآخرة كافرون. The unjustly are those who are pushing people away from the right path of God. And they wanted to twist and meddling and making a profit here, making a profit there, and I don't know what. And they don't believe the last day, the other afterlife. They are the unjustly. They are the
disbelieve in the afterlife.
Yeah.
So the ones that hinder people from the way of God, and they seek in it crookedness, and they make it seem like it's the wrong way, and they deny or disbelieve in the hereafter.
Come on.
And
Next.
The last verse for this session.
وبينهما حجاب وعلى الأعراف رجال يعرفون كلا بسيماهم ونادوا أصحاب الجنة أن سلام عليكم لم يدخلوها وهم يطمعون. وبينهما حجاب. Between heaven and hell there is الحجاب هو
partition,
barrier between two things.
Yeah.
And that's different. The word barrier here is different than barzakh. We're going to come through this word again later on in the Quran.
Yeah.
Barzakh is not hijab.
Okay.
Barrier, hijab is barrier.
Yeah.
And this word has created a lot of controversy about women covering their heads and say, put your hijab around it.
Because
It's a long story.
yeah, it's the same word hijab. You might have heard.
Or both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hijab means a barrier. So we know it as the hijab to be the scarf carrying. But let's not get into that discussion here. Let's just
We'll
say
come to it when we come to it.
yeah.
وبينهما حجاب, there is a division, divider between them, between those in heaven and those in hell.
Yeah.
وعلى الأعراف is
Heights. The heights.
uh,
the peak, the heights of the barrier, the top of the barrier.
the fence. Yeah, yeah. It's a very high fence.
Yeah.
That's why it's called أعراف. العرف is المنطقة العالية. It's the high area,
Yeah.
the
heights of the barrier. Yeah.
Heights of the barrier. وعلى الأعراف رجال يعرفون كلا بسيماهم. They know each and everyone from the way they look at them.
Men recognizing everybody from their marks.
ونادوا أصحاب الجنة.
And the companions of heaven called.
سلام عليكم.
The peace be upon you.
لم يدخلوها وهم يطمعون. They've never allowed it. They've never been allowed into heaven. But the طمع شو هو greedy.
They desire, they hope for it. They
desire.
Yeah. So the people of heaven say hello to the men on top of the barriers?
No. The رجال.
The men on top of the barriers will call out to the people of paradise that
yes.
Peace be upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they have never entered it, but they hope.
They wish, yeah.
So does that mean that the people on top of the barriers are what does that mean? Are they in limbo?
I don't know what exactly do you mean by the word limbo.
Limbo is like the place that's neither hell nor heaven. It seems to be in between, and they're kind of trapped in it forever. So here it's talking about people that are on top of the barrier that call out to the people of heaven. And they'll call out to the companions of heaven, and they'll say, "Peace be upon you." Even though these people, it says men, but it could be possible people. These people have not entered it, even though they desire to, but they hope to. I don't get this.
Maybe honestly, I don't know. Maybe what you're saying makes sense. I need to look into this in a deeper details.
Sure, but yeah, I think that concludes today's session. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and opinions with me and understanding. And this has been very helpful for me to understand, and I appreciate you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
As usual, we always end with صدق الله العلي العظيم, which means trusted is the word of God, who is most elevated and most grand. And we thank you for watching another episode of Quran Weekly with us. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Each one of those actions helps the channel grow and helps other people reach the Quran and enjoy the discovery and learning of it as we are doing. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Captain Ahmad.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers.